All right, welcome back to another episode of the GPPD podcast. I'm your host, KD. Got my buddy here,
Nate.
Nate. Oh, that was a grand
I told you stop doing guy voice.
Okay, so before we get started, keep in mind, same thing. So grandprairiepolice.org. Hop online, do your research. We have multiple departments. 911 dispatch. Mm-hmm. We have detention center.
And cops.
So please get online, fill that paperwork out. It's only about 63 pages. Get started now. You'll be ready by the time we test.
So they're saying we're going to test in spring. So
yeah, sometime in the spring. All right. So today, very special guest, Miss Lauren. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And it's so easy. It's going to be fun. We're going to talk about some funny stuff because she's in communications.
And are you? What's your position within communications?
I'm a communications supervisor.
That's what I was thinking. Okay.
So
AKA boss lady.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know about that.
Yes.
But, we have 4 shift supervisors and then the admin supervisor. So right now I'm the admin supervisor.
So you got one. So one admin supervisor for the entire unit, or
No.
per shift?
Then we have a manager.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
one admin supervisor, yes, I guess for the entire unit, and then Aubrey's over
Gotcha.
me. She's the manager.
So as an admin super, because when we hear admin in police world, it's
You
like,
guys are like,
they just
oh.
come up to you,
Yeah,
guys.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
I need to be off on Friday. Like, is that what you?
No, so I'm over our training and quality assurance. So those two things together are our professional development unit.
So you're a patient.
I'm more patient than what I used to be, for sure.
You think the position made you more patient? Mm-hmm. Oh man, I think that would.
Or just wisdom, just getting older in wisdom.
You know,
No, not getting older. I mean, hopefully more wisdom, yes, but I don't know. I just think the position itself, yeah,
Yeah.
you do need to be more patient.
Do you find yourself because you're overseeing people who are training other like civilians coming into the profession, right? Mm-hmm. So you find yourself needing to be more patient with the civilians coming in, or with your people sometimes.
Usually
you can talk
it's yeah, they're not gonna watch this. No, usually it's people that are coming in, just trying to get them acclimated to the culture and what it is that they're actually doing, and sometimes it can be a little bit more frustrating when it's our people sometimes. Usually they're pretty good, but when you feel like a lot of it is communication.
Sure.
Like, did I communicate that well or did I not? And but everybody's pretty good overall, but probably more difficult when people come in.
Yeah.
Everybody's just trying to figure it out.
Right.
Yeah. Would you say you prefer somebody coming in like as a lateral or a newbie where it's like, nope, they're green, they're just wanting to get started in that dispatch?
I think there's pros to both, really. It just depends on the person and their drive within them. Like, one of the biggest things is laterals usually come in because they know what it's about and they kind of know what to expect. So that tenacity or the overcoming drive within a person, that's already been established in them.
Sure.
They've already decided, like, this is what I want to do. With a new person, it can be a little bit more difficult when they're trying to acclimate to a culture, because at some point in the road, you can either do this or you cannot do this. And you need to be able to do it 100%. We really can't do 95%. You know, like, you're pretty good, but
I like that.
Yeah.
95 won't cut it.
I mean, that's an unfortunate discussion sometimes, but I think usually if that ever happens, which most of the time it doesn't, but if it does happen, it's everybody's on that page and they see everything that we do, they've seen everything that we do, and even they're like, yeah, no, this isn't
That's the thing is, like, when I've experienced that on the FTO or as an FTO, but it's very difficult to lie in this job as far as lying to yourself about, hey, I can do this, because there are some exceptions that I've seen, but by and large, you look at what the job people are doing around you and the results, and you look at the results that you get, and you look at how difficult things are for you as opposed to other people, and it's like there's a learning curve. But when you've been doing it, you're in training for 3-6 months, and it's like it's still not happening. Yeah, those conversations, it's like you can kind of sit down and be like, be honest with yourself. That's always the first thing. Like, do you really see yourself doing this in 5 years?
Right. And usually people by that time, they're kind of not, I wouldn't say they've worn themselves out, because that's not it. I mean, if they're really invested in it, they have really worn themselves out before that point, but they're seeing it, and they also understand the importance of the position. So they want to be able to produce and give you something good, and they see that that's just not happening. So everybody's on the same page as far as that goes. There's a lot of conversations that happen before that, but
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, just breaking things down in their simplest form, it's talking on the phone, right? Talking on the phone and putting in info. But there's other complicating factors that, because if I call you and talk on the phone, that's easy, right? But if someone calls you in your job, that's not easy. There's a lot of other factors that go into it that separate it from an ordinary, receiving information and relaying information. What are some of those factors that you think differentiate the two and make it so difficult for people sometimes?
I would say the life or death scenarios,
Right.
like that
That's
really
number one.
complicates
That's
things
number one.
sometimes. A lot of the calls that we do handle are not life or death, and also it's more than just call handling too, because that's one of the things I love about what we do here is we're an agency that cross-trains, so they are answering phones, but then eventually they're dispatching. So they're dispatching fire and police. We're working info. We're working our NCIC channel. So
in any given shift, you're doing all those things at once.
not at once, no.
Okay.
So, but once you're trained on everything, you have versatility, right? So you can be placed anywhere.
Right.
And depending on what happens on the shift, we might need to take you from here and put you somewhere else,
Right.
But as far as aggravating factors to it, it's much more than a simple phone call. A lot of times, if they are simple phone calls, especially during the day, our PBX operators, they're handling that stuff. But there are things that are more complicated because you're dealing with people in such a vulnerable state. And it doesn't really matter how they got to that state, but they're reaching out because they are in over their head for whatever reason, whether it's police related, medical related, whatever the emergency is, they're needing someone to help them in that moment and or give them some direction on what they need to do. So trying to deal with that, and then dealing with people that also, they still have their own free will, so you are limited in the amount of control that you actually have.
Right.
So it's all verbal judo and
Right.
being able to try to talk sense or be the voice of reason in a situation that you're not physically there to put hands on and say, no, we're not going to do this, But I do like it because it's customer service in a sense, because you're providing them direction and help in that way, but it's not customer service like the customer is always right.
Right. And they can
love
be.
that.
Yeah.
It's not that type, because it's like, look, you're calling me and I'm here to help you, so I need you to listen to me. It's just much more direct, and a lot of that is time related too. You're in an emergency. I don't have time to explain all the how-tos and what-fors. I just need you to listen to what I'm telling you.
And in my current role, I listen to a lot of the 911 calls, and I've always had an appreciation for what y'all do in the sense that, like, one, I couldn't multitask the way y'all do. Like, I can multitask things physically. Like, I can drive, I can listen to the radio, that sort of thing. But, like, the way y'all manage monitors, especially, like, on the dispatch side, you manage monitors and you keep all that straight. Like, I can separate where two guys are because I can look at him on this street corner and him on that street corner. But if you put those two guys on the map, I am not going to remember who's who or where they're supposed to be. Like, so I've always had an appreciation for what y'all do from that perspective. But I never imagined how frustrating those 911 calls would be. And I don't mean to keep harping on the 911 calls, because I know you said it's much larger than that.
No, yeah.
But man, I'll have to listen as a part of my cases, and I'm wanting to yell at my computer. I'm just like, shut the f*** listen. I'm like, she just told you, or she's like the thing that y'all said, and you probably say it 200 times a night, is answering these questions is not going to slow down the response.
Right.
And it's like,
people think that.
Crap.
They're like, why are you asking me a million questions, this and that? And really, it's for the responders. We want you guys, when you get there, to have an idea of what you're about to be stepping off into. And it is sometimes, it's crazy the amount of information that people just don't volunteer, where you're like, that's really important.
Yeah, I need to know.
Right.
Somebody has a gun, that's good to know,
Yeah.
like that, for their safety, for everyone's safety, right? So just the amount of info they don't tell you without you asking, but then they get frustrated with your asking because they do actually think like nothing is happening until I answer all these questions. And really, at the top of the call, by the time you gave us the address and we say, okay, tell me exactly what happened, and they said, well, I'm having problems with so-and-so, we're dropping the call.
Yep.
Like, it's already gone. So,
Right.
so explaining that to them, and you can actually hear sometimes like, oh, like they let go of that. Oh, okay. And then they're more, you know.
Yeah, it's because the thought that I would call 911, like I've had to do in the past, and then y'all would just like talk to me and then hang up and then dispatch, never crossed my mind. But I guess people who aren't exposed to it, that's just what they think.
Right. And well, and I mean, given there are some people that call multiple times in their life, but a lot of people
In one day.
or in one day, like, that could happen. But the majority of the population is not having contact with 911 like most of their life.
That's true.
Maybe one or two times.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that will probably do anything that they can to not have to call.
Yeah.
So when they are calling, it is like, okay, we're in a bad situation right now. So
Let's talk about that. The people that want to call all the time,
say
and
we
you
were-
know
we were
who
having-
you are.
We were having a conversation about that earlier. I always tell people on the street, or even now, they'll be like, "Oh, I just didn't know if I didn't want to bother y'all," and I'm like, "Y'all have no idea, like how many calls that we get that have no business."
oh, there's no
ever being
regard
placed.
though.
Yeah,
It's like, hey, you guys are here, and I mean, they do have a point. We are here. We are getting paid. So like,
yeah, sure.
we're gonna answer. We're not gonna tell you no. But there are some times where we hear from them
Yeah.
a lot, And I think sometimes too, it just depends on the situation, which I think that's where it would be really hard for me to be in y'all's shoes, because I'd be like, look, we've been out here like 3 times today. I need y'all to get some things together. I don't know what to.
Yeah.
Well, down
Where
and
you
leave.
pull up, put the car in park, you just give them a look. You're just like I shouldn't be here.
I just left 10 minutes ago.
Right.
So is there a rule though that dispatch you can't hang up on somebody?
No. There's a way to do it. I mean, you can't be like, all right, bye, click. I mean,
this is boring.
like, doesn't sound like an emergency to me. No, you can't do that.
Pay your child support. Shut up.
But there is a way to. We always assess: is there an emergency or not? It also depends on the line too. There's so many factors. Why are they calling? Who are they wanting to talk to? But there's been a few times, like a couple of times, where we'll have somebody that'll want to just hang out on that emergency line, and we can't do that because it's tying it up.
Yep.
So, and we've had situations where something happens, you get 1-2 calls, and now all the lines are lit up.
Right.
Well, if that line's tied up, you could be preventing somebody else. So there's times where we'll say, okay, I need to answer 911 lines because they are ringing.
Right.
And I can't. Also, we have a limited number of people to answer the phone.
Right.
So
Okay, you saying tied up. So I guess the dispatch center only allows a certain amount of phone calls?
we have a certain number of emergency lines.
Yeah.
Thankfully, though, we have so much redundancy built into our system. So say our phones, we do have a lot of lines. So I don't want it to be like, oh, there's only 2 lines, so good luck to y'all.
Right,
No,
yeah.
that's not true. We have a lot of lines, but say a major incident happened, like a few years ago or a couple years ago when we had that Timberview incident, which actually wasn't even in our city.
Yeah.
But that city's
Oh.
911 lines were overwhelmed. And one of the great things built into the 911 system is redundancy. So if that city's lines are overwhelmed, you're not going to get it busy. It's going to push you off into another city's lines.
Oh, okay. That's
So we
cool.
can help each other out in that way.
That's interesting. Because I know of a big city around here that has come under fire in the past for like putting people on hold, calling 911. I wonder if certain cities don't have that type of agreement or.
Well, I mean, you can put them on hold. I guess I don't know enough about that to say like what
Yeah, I
happened with
don't
that
either.
incident, but you can put them on hold, and like for major incidents like that, we're trying to triage the situation really quickly to determine, because I don't think people think about what type of calls they're actually getting. You're getting calls from the scene, especially for a school-related incident. You're getting calls from people on scene, which there's hundreds of kids in that school. And it could be people that are right there by the incident, then kids that are running out of the school or teachers or whatever. Then you're getting calls from parents that have gotten calls or texts from their kids. They're not even in the city, but they're en route and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So, and then you're just getting calls from people that are in the vicinity that really don't have any information, but they maybe think they saw something somewhere. So you're just trying to filter out on top of all the regular calls of everything else going on in the city. So
that would be the one time that I would answer, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's a shooting at it. We're en route," and I would just hang up because you see call up.
Oh, you got to make it quick, Yeah,
it's like, "Oh yes, we know we're en route."
Like
Click,
basically,
next.
are you there? Are you hurt? Like, what do you see? Do you see the suspect? Do you know where they are? Are you hurt? Do you know where anybody else is that's hurt? If they can't give you any of that, then it's really, okay, I'm going to have to let you go.
Yeah.
And so that would be, I guess,
we
the
want
hang-up
that happen.
situation.
I mean,
Yeah. That would, and people usually understand that because at that point they see that they're not able to provide anything, and we're just trying to work the call.
Yeah.
So.
And then you get that one goofy guy that calls all the time, and he's
Right.
And you're like, "Sir, we have an emergency, a really I want to talk to the chief."
There should be some kind of something
Let
you
me
can
transfer you.
You know, I got hung up on by a Dallas dispatch one time, or 911 one time. Before I was a police officer, I was driving. Since I've become a police officer, I've learned, the heads up to anybody else, you never drive in a left-hand lane after like 10 p.m.
10 o'clock.
Yeah. Because people get really drunk and they get on the wrong way and they think they're in the right-hand lane, just blending in, and they're not, and they almost kill you. And I almost got killed one time. And I was so freaking close. And dude just blew. I got around an 18-wheeler and got over right as the dude blew past me.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, and I'm not a cop, but I called 911 because I'm like, that's what you do. And now, as a police officer, I would be like, there's 90 other people calling 911. Like, even if I don't, if I probably don't make the call.
I would say probably vehicle fires. That's what happens.
Oh, right, yeah.
Or grass fires on the highway. People are like, "Did you guys know there's a fire over here?"
No, ma'am, we did not.
Actually, 20
Thank
other
you.
people have called about that.
You're
but
lucky caller
Dude,
number 150.
She answered the phone when I called, and she's like, "You're calling about the wrong way, driver?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am." Just click. Okay.
Seriously? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not judging. I don't know what all they had going on, but dang,
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have done that. But yeah, we'll
I
have
felt
calls
a little
like
offended
that
in the
sometime.
moment. I was like, that seems unprofessional. But now that I do the job, I'm like, hang up on me. Yeah.
You're like,
get me out of the
I
way.
was caller number 50. Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
You know, something that occurs to me, or two things that occurred to me just in us talking that I hadn't thought about, is you talk about managing multiple things, but as far as the different roles between call taker and dispatcher, obviously being in a police department, we have chases and shootings and very high intensity things that happen. Yeah. And I'm thinking about where y'all work. That's right in front of your call takers and stuff. So you have, say, an officer involved shooting, and you're able to see all that stuff going on. Someone calls you still got to answer that.
our dispatchers don't answer.
No. But what I mean is, as a call taker, like, these are still your buddies.
Oh yeah.
So you're sitting there, hey, I'm on phones today, and you see all this stuff going on. Me personally, I'm probably not even at my desk. Like, I'm over there seeing what's going on or seeing if I can help. But you can't do that because you still got, and someone calls like that guy or someone with some silly question. You're like, hey, that's a guy that I work with is out there getting shot at or shooting someone. It's like, man,
that's a really tough spot that unfortunately we've had several dispatchers in where you just you kind of are in a bit of, not kind of, but you are in a helpless position at that time. One of the things I will say too, though, is our teams really work really well together. So when they are handling that in the moment, when they get a moment, they are involved with what's going on and how can I help and all that stuff. And that's one of the things I love about Grand Prairie, though, is our pursuits and chases and all that stuff. It's like a machine in there.
just real well oiled.
Oh, yeah. Just from the patrol side, but also from communications, is just seeing how that came together and how it just is, oh, I'm sorry, I hit this. But I loved it. Like I was like, all right, this is it. This is what I need because they just make it happen. And then being in those positions where there are officer involved things, we'll call a shift in, just like patrol does.
Oh, okay.
Call a shift in so that they can get relief and they're not having to hang out. And I love to see that even after that, usually they'll spend time together
Right.
to like decompress and take care of each other, and so that's really important. And just seeing that is one of probably, it's a tough spot to be in, but it makes me really proud of them. So
Yeah. What do you think is the toughest part of that to manage?
as a supervisor or just as a person?
I guess both.
As a supervisor, it's tough because you're seeing your people suffering.
Right.
That's a tough spot to be in. And you always, as a supervisor, you're always asking yourself, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I pushing them too hard? Am I not pushing them enough? Or do I need to be quiet? Do I need to say something? Like, what's going to work for this person? Or you want to solve it, you can't solve it. It's not something that you can fix. You just got to be there for them. So that's tough. And then obviously as a person, like, this is my family too, so you go through all that emotion and all the emotional stuff. There's a lot of, I would say probably like with police stuff, police is in my family. So
Okay.
my dad was a police officer for 36 years. And
Oh, wow. Where was he at?
his dad, he was at Arlington.
Oh, very cool.
So, and his dad and my uncle, it's a whole thing.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's in the blood.
yeah.
It's kind of my family too, yeah.
So, like a police funeral, like that's one of like the most beautiful, amazing, also horrible things that you ever are part. And I don't even know how to describe that any other way. It never seems like enough, but it always seems like incredible amount of support and stuff. So just, experiencing that as a person, as police family is just, it's tough, but I'm grateful that I know it, and I experience it because I don't really know how to describe it to somebody who's not.
I remember when I was a kid, because my dad's a cop as well, he would always say that the police funeral is one of the most unique experiences. And it is. And it's crazy because I was the department where he works had been through a stretch where no one had been killed. So growing up, I never attended any, and it was weird because I was always like, it's not like you wanted someone to die, but it was always like, my dad talked about this event with such reverence. I was always like, man, I wish I could attend one, like to see what he's
like
talking
I want to
about.
know what this is about, or like understand it more. It's so weird not understand it. Like not I want to go through it, but
And I remember my my first, I think it may be my first one. I think my first one was after the shootings on the 7th, and all of those. And man, that was, talk about an introduction. It was absolutely insane. And now being on the honor guard and doing them quite often.
Yeah, he instructs honor guards. So you probably met him. My dad, Troy Medina.
That's not your dad.
Yeah.
No way. I love him.
Yeah.
Dude,
he's like,
yeah. Oh, that's crazy. No, he is single-handedly responsible
so now
for
you
getting.
see where that's.
Yes. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love Troy. Yeah. So our honor guard had gone through a period of turnover, and we thankfully hadn't had a police funeral from 04?
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, it was like, I think, was it 04 that 03? And then AJ Castaneda died. And so you'd had this, that's a massive amount of time. And you had, guys, half their careers had gone by. They had gotten on honor guard, gotten off honor guard. And you had a group of us who were just very new and had never done a police funeral. And I think from the operational side of things. And then I don't know who it was, but someone called Arlington, and your dad came out and spent a week straight, 12-hour days, and he just sent us through this like honor guard boot camp. And we went from one of the hardest weeks of my career because we're also dealing with the loss.
You
of
have
one of
your
our
own
guys.
things, yeah.
But he was very unforgiving. and it was but it was exactly what we needed, like in the best possible way. It was like there were times we got mad at him, like we're just like done, we're exhausted, but he's like, no, he's like, this will be perfect. He's like, and I don't give it if you like it. It's not about you, it's about AJ. Yeah. And he really took us from it would have been a disaster to having a massive amount of pride in what we were able to do.
I was super proud too, just seeing our honor guard, and it does make me sad that we've done it so many times since that point. But every time you guys just he's been on honor guard like for the majority of his career. So and now as an instructor and all that stuff, so I have a little bit more intimate look at like all the prep and everything that goes into it. So I have those high expectations too, right. So it just makes me so proud when I can see our people just representing so well. And but yeah, so it's a big thing. And then he's still even doing it when he's like semi-retired, so it's important to him.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah, he's doing his thing. But honor guard is a big deal for him.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, he's extremely passionate about it.
And he even did. That same thing happened with my husband. His department, they lost an officer, so then he went over there and.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, he could probably make a retirement gig out of that.
I tried to tell him. I was really like, hey, just make this your deal. But.
I mean, yeah, either from an instructor perspective or even doing from the perspective of like the operational side,
like
of
consultation,
the actual, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, but it is heavy. It's so heavy though.
That would get exhausting. Where if that's your only job.
Because Arlington went through a time where they, lost officers, and it is hard. It's mentally, emotionally, it takes it out of you. I'm sure by the end of that, y'all were. Probably needing like a little break.
Especially the first one, especially AJ's. Unfortunately, it got easier to handle mentally as you did more of them. Excuse me. But especially that first one, because there was so much pressure and the stress, and combined with, how close he was to some of us. And it was like that whole week is just a blur. It's like a mental fog. And like the feeling after you left the like when we set his casket down for the last time, at the cemetery, that feeling of just relief almost. It was like that whole last week just kind of caught up to you all at once, and it was just like
very emotional.
Yeah, it was
very emotional. So.
But talking about that, we haven't talked at all about you, about the personal side of things. So tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from. And
well, I am a cop's kid, so I grew up in Arlington. And my dad was a police officer before I was born, so I was actually just talking about this with somebody. I don't really know any other way. It's my grandfather was one before him, and so, and
was he at Arlington as well?
No, he worked for Dallas County.
Oh, very nice.
And so, that's just been like my whole life. And my parents, they're still married. I went to Martin High School, just the regular stuff. Local. I would say regular until probably 17, and then I got a little bit wild there for a little while. I had my son, and so then quickly readjusted and still went to college and everything, and then I got into emergency communications, and that's really where I just loved this is it. Like, I loved it. I was actually worked for Arlington for a little while, and I loved it over there. I was a police dispatcher there, but I wanted to grow, learn new things, and cross-train. And Grand Prairie I heard about Grand Prairie. My dad was actually really good friends with the chief at the time, and so the chief was like, they're our family friends. So he was like, hey, you should come look over here, And I was like, I don't know. I really love it here. I work with my dad. And I don't want to leave this, But the more I wanted to grow, the more into it I got, I realized, I want to do
what do you mean by
more.
grow?
I wanted to be able to call, take, and dispatch. And, I want to do all of it. And there at that time, that was not the way that they did things,
Sure.
which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good for everybody, but I just wanted more than what they were able to give me, you know.
That's what we always tell people. Like, the same on our side. Being a cop is not just being a cop. Like, the type of city you're in completely changes.
And also, I think it depends on the time, too. So, like, I don't know that if I would have started here, I would have felt this. I don't know how that would have gone, but I just felt like I was ready to do that. And so whenever I came over here and I had that chance to grow, and then, you know, our former chief died, he was here. And so I already knew what his expectation was because I had grown up with that same, they're very similar in expectations. So I was about that, you know, and it just gave me a lot of growth opportunity. But yeah, so I grew up in Arlington, then I worked there, and then I came over here. I've been here 10 years now. And then during that time, I met my husband and got married, and we had another
Married
kid.
someone here?
No.
Oh, okay.
He actually works for another department. He works with my uncle, and my aunt was the manager over there too. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's a whole.
I was gonna say,
Like-
you know, Christmas
like
at their
even-
house.
Yeah.
Here's your badge.
Well, because, like, I tell people, like,
How many guns do we get for Christmas? You know, this year, like it just.
That's awesome.
It's a whole thing, and I think whenever you're a teenager, you always want to kind of rebel a little, like, no, I'm not going to do that. And eventually you're just like, I just need to let this be what it is, and like, let's just give into it. But I'm grateful and I'm blessed for it because I just couldn't imagine.
The baby's turning 1. Here's a Henry 22 rifle.
Yeah.
I'm getting that for my kids, yeah.
I mean, I can't
100%,
really like say too much because that's how our kids end up. I don't even know what to say. Like, it's just so.
Yeah, no, people, I can have people who aren't from around here, and they'll talk about, you know, you buy a freaking gun for your kid and you live in Texas. And I'm like, I
They
got my
love
first
gun
rifle when I was
hunting.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
We
I'm gonna,
haven't-
100% I'm gonna get my kids a Henry lever
rifle.
action 22.
I have to, if I could find it on my phone, like really quick, I would. But oh my gosh. So, you know, at Christmas, they have the kids fill out at school, like, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want Santa to bring you? And I think for first grade, he wrote, our youngest son wrote, I want a Dodge Charger and a shotgun for Christmas. And I thought, they're going to call me and be like, what's wrong? And then, like, this year they did like a what's the about you thing. You know, like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? And they said, what's your favorite season? Like, season of the year, you know, winter, fall, spring, summer. He wrote rifle season for
Hell
like
yeah.
hunting. And I was like,
Hell yeah.
Any other time the teacher's like, oh my God, we're gonna watch this kid, but the teacher's like, nope, I know your mama and your daddy,
Oh,
your
and we
uncle,
go
your
to-
papa.
That's the most Texas shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
he goes,
Like-
and he wrote so much more, like just about hunting and how he loves
Yeah.
hunting and fishing and how he wants to go offshore.
I love
Just
it.
a whole
That's
thing
awesome.
about
Yeah.
it. But I thought they're gonna call. But the only reason I feel like they didn't is because we live in a small town. So I'm
Right.
sure he's not the only kid that was, you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure
and
he
there's-
was
there-
the only
there's a
kid.
big
I'm
there-
pretty sure he was the only kid.
That's what I'm
What's
telling
your favorite
myself.
season? Hunting season. What?
Yeah. Oh no, he was specific. Rifle season.
I say that's hilarious. Rifle
like a
season.
season within a season.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
but yeah,
That's
that's
fun.
that's it. So.
That's crazy.
Okay, so I want to jump back to when you have somebody in there that, do I call it geographically challenged? They look at the map and they don't know if it's north, south, east, or west. How do you help those people?
Oh, there's a lot of testing that goes into it. I'm sure you guys have a lot of testing as far as geography goes, but you guys get the benefit of being out there and driving it. Like,
yeah.
okay, which direction are you driving right now, you know? But we're constantly going back to the map, but they start on geography pretty much from the jump.
Okay.
There does have to be a point where you have to be able to do it and read it.
Right.
There's a lot of times too, because when you're dealing with people on the phone, the majority of the time, it's surprising how people don't know which direction they're going. So you're also translating it because PD and FD want it north, south, east, west.
Yeah.
Right.
But with the callers calling, you're saying which way are you going? They're like, I don't know. Are you going toward Arlington or are you going toward Dallas?
Right.
You know, so you're taking what they're saying and then translating it, and you need to be able to do that really quickly.
That way.
Right. I just turned right.
Oh, you'll have people that say like, I went right by the McDonald's or whatever, and you're like, okay,
Fortunately, there's only one of those.
right, yeah. So just I would say constant testing, but in various forms. They do get an opportunity to kind of go out and drive around, but if they're not from here, it's more difficult.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So, like on the PD side, whenever you're training, I know a lot of us have experienced where you have an FTO who will just shut the computer on you. Be like, okay, where are you at? Which everybody talks trash about it, they hate it, and I hated it too. But it's very invaluable. I mean, it's really important. In the first time you get, yes, it is.
It is.
As a bike guy, you should know that.
As a dispatcher, I'm going to tell you yes, because when you're like, okay, they're running. Where are you running? Like the 10 seconds that the officer's not saying anything, everyone is like, where are they? What is happening?
But the thing is, though, guess what the cop's doing? Where am I?
Yes, like, oh my God.
But so KD is lying. He's lying through his teeth. And I know this because I just went to bike school. And the complaint that I heard from the guys in bike school was that he would be in a place and he'd be riding for X number of minutes or miles. And he'd stop you and go, hey, where are you at? Mm-hmm. So, Mr. High and Mighty.
No, so.
But no, hang on. I'm going to finish my question. So, we have that. What's y'all's equivalent of that?
For dispatchers, the CTO will tell them to turn around and tell them where all their units are.
CTO.
Oh, God.
What's that?
The training, like your FTO.
Oh, okay.
Communications training officer.
All of them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dude.
Say who's on what calls. I mean, we're not going to ask you like specifically this address where they're at, but about where are they at.
Oh, damn.
Who's on calls, who's not on calls.
That's when I just give you my badge and my key. I'm like, I can't do
Yeah, they'll
this.
have them do that. They'll have them say, hey, where's so-and-so? What call are they on?
I mean, that's bad. But I'm not cut off for that. Although, you know what? I don't know, though. Maybe not give ourselves enough credit because we track where people are on the radio.
Well, true, but I think now at this point you just do it not thinking about it, so to speak. It's like, oh, I know so-and-so's over there on the traffic stop and this guy's over here to 6X, so I'm going to listen over here, a little bit more. But, all right, so
I love when the
whatever. Anyway, so the computers, like, y'all have like 4 computers on the... I would walk in
like
and I can't
a wall of monitors.
I'm like, no, so can we get them 5 just to piss them off? Can we get 5?
I mean, I think they would take it. Like, the more space, the better as far as a dispatcher is concerned. But there are so many systems that we're looking at because we have AVL on y'all's cars, so that's in our dispatch system. But y'all also have Axon, which has AVL on that. So we have the Axon system up.
So what do you mean? Because it's been a while since I've been on the street.
So in CAD, there's the AVL that's on the cars. So we're tracking on the map, where you guys are moving. But the body-worn cameras, they also have GPS.
Yeah. Okay.
And the cameras inside the cars are also Axon cameras. So we're able to log into Axon and see where everybody's at there,
through
too.
the car camera or through the body?
Both. You can see both.
Now,
so when you run away from your car... we can see where as long as your camera's on, we can see where it's running.
Like recording or just even?
On. Just on.
Cool. Awesome.
No, not awesome. Turn your stuff off before you go to the bathroom, please.
Yes.
We don't want to hear all that.
Yeah, that's a different subject.
So all the signs around the station are for turn it off, please, turn it off. That's for all the brass that has to do all the review that are like, no.
Yeah, so when you get mad at somebody, just leave it on and go do whatever. All right.
But yeah, does that answer the question some about geography?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to have to know geography.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just hard. If you're looking at the computer, and you get these people in here that are geographically challenged, there's no way they're going to know, oh, he's running northeast. I can see them like, they're like this.
Well, I'm not good at directions, and I had a big, like, whenever I started working at night, it's like during the day, you always kind of had that cheat of where the sun is, with the exception of a couple hours in the afternoon. But at night,
Yeah, you better know.
Yeah, you better know.
You better know.
Okay, so with bikes, all I would tell them is, that's funny you say that. So when we start riding, you always designate a address guy. So if you're riding in the 2s, you can say, hey, today you got the address. which only means because when you're on bikes, it happens that fast.
Right.
And so most of the time, if I see something, I want to get right up on it, and then I let my partner or whoever I'm riding with, hey, you do the mark out, give them the tags.
I couldn't ever be that guy.
Well, that's fine, but
'Cause
you'd have
you-
to
'cause
tell
you-
me that
yeah.
so that I would know while we're riding, because it
'Cause you
never
look over and
fails.
be like,
You're
"Wait,
just going to start
are we
chit
marked
chatting,
out?" Yeah.
and then it's going to be boom,
Yep.
and you're going to go up there and handle it, and I'm like,
Yep.
and I've done it before. I'm like, I'm gonna walk back 20 yards
Yep.
so I can go. Hey, I've asked people on the street, hey, bro, what's your address?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Dude.
terrible. So
Man, we had I've had a couple of foot chases, especially at my old agency, where I like people. You're in someone's backyard and they're like sticking their head out while you're fighting this guy. And it's like, hey, what's your address? Or call 911.
Right.
Yeah.
Call them and tell them where we are. Yeah.
I don't know
It's
how many
stressful
times
for
dispatch would be
a
like, "Where are you at?"
dispatcher.
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, there
This
used
roof
to-
looks like this.
Well, now we can follow you probably to the end of the earth now with all
Yeah.
the AVL technology and everything. But before you go into Dallas, and then your radio cuts out. You have to get on the cell phone and can't see where you are.
Yep.
So
okay. So I want to talk about this. So here in GP, if we start in a vehicle, if you start chasing somebody, you go into another city, you can hit East IO or whatever.
They're different.
Well-
They're different channels. Mm-hmm. What would you do if it was moi chasing somebody and we haven't done it in a while? And I'm like, you're like, Katie, go to East IO, and I'm like,
Oh, you're
I don't
screwed
know
now.
what the hell that is. And you
your
better-
radio should be reprogrammed. All you got to do
guarantee
is
you
just
it's
twist it
I'm
all the
doing
way.
100 miles an hour. I'm not looking up under there to go.
No,
the-
you just hit a button.
If you're doing 100
And your
miles an
thing.
hour, you're losing the chase.
True. Yeah.
But that was a lot of feedback that we got. But when we had them move over, I think they've kind of seen the pros and the cons too. Because
Yeah.
I'm not in the car, so I'm not going to say how easy or hard it is. But I've heard that multiple times on how difficult it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you weigh it against how difficult would it be to not have comms, like how when you're out there and you need it and nobody can hear you, nobody can get to,
Yep.
figure out where you are, get to you. So you have to weigh that just like you weigh the risks. But we try to get them pretty early. Like when we see it's going out of the city, we try to say, hey, move to this IO, and we'll select an IO channel that's already pre-programmed in their vehicle on your handheld. It's programmed on the handheld on that patrol zone, so you can just turn
Dude,
it.
I had
Okay, no, that handheld, I ain't finding nothing on that thing.
No, you don't
That's
have
what
to.
she's saying.
You just turn it all the way.
so you have your dial on top, and probably not gonna cut this out, but you have your dial on top that hits your normal channels, your
Yeah,
1, 2, 3 infos and all
So
that.
you just twist till it won't go.
The
anymore.
last two should be your East
Interop,
IOs
yeah.
or your interops, which they've changed. I don't think
They've
using-
changed those.
Yeah. So and there was one
but
time.
they did reprogram to the ones we changed to.
Okay, I need to because I need to get a new radio. Period. Because my
We just need to
my
go get into some
ESTIO
chases, too.
doesn't work. Yeah. If I,
Yeah, we need to. We're gonna work overtime this weekend.
When I hear that on the radio, I'll be sure to pull that audio so you can hear it.
Dude, and I used to be good. I don't know if I still am. I feel like I was good anyway. But there was one time I was in a chase and we were going. It was fast, and we were approaching downtown Dallas, and my
You're
car
like,
had
this
like
is my home. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Like I know. When everyone
Well-
else is like, oh no.
yeah. Well, it is. It depends. If it goes past 35, I'm not be okay. If it goes off in the west or northwest or southwest, screwed.
Yeah, we're done.
But it was it wound up in like Rockwall County or something, so it wasn't even that wasn't that. But my car wound up having an electric issue, in like right before I got to downtown, and my big radio just died, just stopped. And so I'm like keying up, and there's nothing happening. I'm like, the dude behind me is not calling it anymore, and I was like, oh, it's all dark down there. And so I pulled out my little radio, and I didn't. I used to be really bad about when they say, "Hey, bring your radios by to get programmed or update this." I'm like,
Now
I'll
you know.
do it eventually. And I hit it, I opened it or turned it on to flip all the way over, and there's nothing there. And it's like unprogrammed or whatever. So I had to go through the menus, and I'm driving 120, 130.
That's
and
terrifying.
Yeah, it sucked.
Terminated. Yeah. This
That's
chase is
terrifying.
done.
I had that conversation too with the chain of command member.
Oh. Are y'all able to terminate chases?
No.
Oh.
That's a command decision or officer decision.
Yeah.
But
Do you know the kind of fight there would be? There's a fight
no,
when
don't do it.
if the
Usually
supervisors
the-
cancel a chase, there's a fight.
Well, okay, so dispatch then only tells like the citizen, hey, you don't have to follow him anymore. You gave me the plate and the car vehicle
Right,
description. Stop following. Because you see some of these cases in court, like it's like, okay, dispatch, did you tell? Yeah, we told him to stop
Yeah.
following, and the guy or the girl did it, and bad stuff happened. But
Yeah, like road rage stuff is always difficult. Like at one
I
time,
bet
I
that
had a
does
lady
suck.
that was on the phone, and she was just like, "This person is driving recklessly. You know what? I'm about to tell him I'm on 911." And I could hear the window go, and I'm
you're
like,
like,
"What
no,
are you
let
doing?
it go.
What are you doing?"
Do you know who this person is?
And I said, "Do not talk to him. Do not do what you're doing right now. Stop doing that. Don't talk to him. Do not engage with them." And then by the end of it, I said, "Do you understand that person could have a gun? They could have a weapon, and you could end up hurt. And while we're still coming to you, there is a period of time where you're not getting help. So don't do that. That's very dangerous." And she's like, I tell my kids that all the time. And I'm like, but people's emotions just like overtake them. And sometimes I think,
Dude, I could
like
do that.
the whole time, I'm like, if I hear this person get shot or God forbid something bad happens, I'm gonna just, like that's gonna be very upsetting to me. But
You ever hit the point where you're talking to somebody? Because I know we do it on the street, but like you ever hit the point where you're talking to someone and they're explaining to you their emergency, why this person's wrong and so on, and you realize like it clicks that no, you're actually the problem.
like, do you think if maybe you didn't do this or that? It does, but by that point, it's irrelevant. You
Right,
know,
yeah,
like
that's true.
that's the thing too, is that you do
I didn't
have
think
to
about that,
train
yeah.
people that what you are giving them in that moment is not going to be a life epiphany.
Right.
What you're giving them is they're not going to be like, ding, oh, they're right. I'm going to change all my way. Like, no. That's not what's happening. You're giving them the help. And like with that lady, when she stopped engaging with him, the guy drove off and she, went her way. So she stayed on the phone with me long enough for me to explain to her, do you understand that
Right.
we're aware and we're coming, but there's no one with you. So
yeah. No. People. It's nothing. That
and
one
so
gives
by
people a real
that,
false sense of security.
like maybe I don't know. I've never talked to her. I'll probably never talk to her again. I don't know if that changed anything for her, but
Yeah.
99% of the time you're not giving them any.
Well, that's
You
such a
want
weird-
to, but that's more of you guys'
Yeah.
opportunity out there on the street.
That's what I was gonna say. That's such a weird concept to me. Like I never would have considered it until we just had that conversation. Y'all don't care who's right and wrong. But
Yeah,
like to
like,
us, that's 90% of it.
yeah.
That's the job, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's times where, like, we're telling them, separate yourself, stop talking to them, because you can tell when a situation is escalating and you
Right.
can see it's, just from what you're hearing, it's not going well. So you're encouraging them to do that, but that's for their safety at that time.
Right.
But as far as like
not
life
like a, hey, you're wrong.
philosophy and hey, you're going about this thing the wrong way and that kind of stuff, we don't have the time to do that. Like that's
Right.
more of a street decision. And then we're not there to judge them either.
Right.
So there's a lot of times where people will get themselves in a hairy situation and then they realize like, oh, this is, now I need more help. Or they're calling with the full expectation of, look, y'all need to come out here and take care of this or that. But that's not our job to
Right.
say, well, you did this to yourself. So, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's not what we're there for.
I disagree. You drive
that's
around a
your job.
barricade.
That's what I'm saying. That's what she's saying. That's our
That's
role.
your job.
Yeah.
You drive around a barricade and you see flooding waters and now you're at 911. Yeah, I need
Oh, yeah.
somebody to come and get. What?
I couldn't
Sir,
be-
did you see the damn barricade?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought I could make it. Okay, well, we think we can get out there and help you, but it'll be a few minutes.
Yeah.
Get out my phone. That's what I'd
You
say.
usually just stick to not answering 911 calls.
If I ever see him coming in there on light duty, like, hey, I'm ready to train, not the phone. Not the phone.
You can go cuss out the other officers on dispatch if you want to. But
You're going to have to save that phone line.
do you have any that stick in your mind or jump out to you as just like absurd 911 interactions you've had?
Yeah, we've had people just call and say some crazy things to call takers.
Like what?
Well, the one about where he felt that the doctor should have killed him when he was born, or
Not just, you
like
said
crazy
the doctor,
stuff like that.
The doctor should have cut his throat as he
Yeah.
was born.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
That's insane. To a dispatcher, saying that about the dispatcher. That is. Insanity.
Or people will call, like somebody called for a theft of service, but it was an illegal service.
Hello.
What was the service?
Hello. Talk
It was.
about
It was.
You know what
They
you
edit.
know,
Yeah. So the lady called and she was just saying, hey, this guy told me he would pay me this much if I did this with him. And he showed me the
Prostitution
money.
deal, that's him?
Yeah, it was prostitution. And he showed me the money. And I took this call and I was like new. And also, I don't think when you're new, you can fully like appreciate, not like once in a lifetime calls, but like fully appreciate calls that like that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
You just think like these are just calls that you're getting.
You're right.
And so she called and she said that. And then I'm thinking, that sounds like prostitution, what she's saying. But I don't want to be rude. Like maybe she was forced to like, so I'm trying to go through everything and make sure I'm asking all the questions that I asked. And then everything she's saying is indicating no, it actually was. So then I just straight up asked her, I said, so you were prostituting yourself and he told you had the money, but then he didn't pay you. She's like, no, he like pushed me down and drove off. And I was like,
You're like, wait.
so you want to make a theft report for
Right.
that? And she's like, yes, I do. I want an officer out here. I said, I can send an officer to you, but they're not going to take a theft report, and
Right.
I'm not sure you're going to like what they say. And she's like, that's fine. I'll just go back to church then or whatever. And I'm like, and then she hung up on me, and I was so confused.
That's when you're just like, I need a
I looked
break.
around like, is
Right.
this like, what was that show, where the Ashton Kutcher show where somebody would
Punk'd.
get punked? Yeah,
Punk'd,
like, am
yeah.
I being punked right now?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I felt like.
So, and then imagine the officer, because that happened to me.
Then we still go out there.
Yeah, and I'm out there, and she's like, told me $20. I'm like, okay, why am I here?
Right.
Well, he didn't pay me my $20. I said, man, wait a minute, you won't. And
Right.
I would
Well,
laugh,
nobody
like,
ended up even going out because she was just like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want anybody now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, because I'm thinking, what if this is a sexual assault? Like, I'm like building this whole
Oh, of course, yeah.
scenario up in my mind. And then when I just straight up asked her, she's like, no. Yeah, that was a scam.
Jeez.
But I really thought, I was like, am I going to be in trouble for nothing happening? No, I mean, she didn't want anything
we
to
just go out
happen.
there and you want to ask them the age-old question, and it's like, so how did we get here?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And
Why
then
am I-
once people have to explain out loud how things happen, they tend to go, "Oh, I'm an idiot."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah, like when she heard me say it back to her, she was just kind of like,
Get
the
it?
light came on.
yeah, I'll just go
dude,
back
we
to
would get
church or
calls
whatever.
on people getting ripped off on dope deals, like getting sold sheetrock or whatever
Soap.
else.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they'll call in. It's like, yeah, he took my money. It's like you're trying to buy an illegal thing, and it's like, yeah, but he still stole
crimes.
from me, and it's like you have a point. I get it, but we're not investigating that unless we
Ethically,
investigate
is it
this.
wrong? Yes.
Yes.
Legally, no.
Look,
Leave a bad Yelp review or something, but
I'm standing in front of a guy with like 2 teeth, and he's holding the soap in his hand, and he's like, "This guy showed me some soap."
Test it.
He said, "I tasted it." And I was like, "Oh hell no, get on, man." That's funny. I want to sit in 911 for like and just listen to some of those calls.
dude, you can well, I don't know if you have a login, but you can listen to every phone call and radio transmission from I don't know when. It seems like forever. Every once in a while,
It'll
I'll just
save
pick
in
one
there for
sometimes.
like several months or whatever,
Yeah.
unless we pull it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Or if you're ever just like, hey, what's going on today? You can. And sometimes we'll get calls that come in there and you're just like reading it because you're not the call taker. You're just reading the call and you're thinking, what is going on?
You know what y'all need to do? You'll need to create a folder where you just submit your ridiculous ones,
Yeah.
and then everyone can listen to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
We
And
probably
we'll call it
should.
for training purposes.
Yeah.
And we'll sit in the room
We'll
like
have a
this
couple
and
that are wild,
cackle.
but yeah.
Like
We,
what?
we just, I mean, like, not like ridiculous, but we do save some for training purposes. Like,
Like
hey,
tunnel
this is a really
parties.
good.
Man. That's the wildest.
That's the wildest thing I've
Yeah, he
ever heard
wins.
in this 15
Yeah.
years.
I feel like Darius definitely wins that one.
Yeah. Y'all need to check that podcast out.
It's not on there.
Oh.
You got edited.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Just like this is going to get edited.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we do save them for training and stuff, but really funny ones a lot of times. If it's real busy, they're just like, "Oh, that was so funny," and then they kind of
we gotta
like
go to the next one.
let it go. Or I've had somebody one time. You'll have to tell Darius this because when he came over and I was training him, this lady was going on, and she was having a medical emergency, and he went through the whole thing with her, and then she goes, "Oh, you sound handsome."
Why, yes, I am.
Darius's face. It was just epic. I was like, I'm so happy I'm sitting here able to listen to this. But yeah, it's just wild, crazy stuff that happens sometimes.
That's funny. Yeah, I'll be looking for a 911 call, and sometimes because a lot of time the timestamp on the 911 system doesn't always match up perfectly with the CAD system. So I print out my call sheet. It says it came in at this time. So every once in a while you kind of have to guess which call it was. And I'll wind up pulling up a call. And I'm trying to see if that's the call
Like,
I need.
This is not it.
It's not it. But then I'm like, I wind up listening, and I'm like, just kind of get a little hooked. You're like, I wonder how this works out. It's like he said, "What
This
do you
is
like?"
an interesting story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's funny. Do y'all have, I guess, like we have ride-alongs. You have sit-alongs, like for somebody that wants to be a dispatcher, can they sign up to come in for an hour or two?
We do. So that's something that we really encourage during the hiring process. During COVID, we stopped doing it, obviously. But if somebody was ever interested and just wanted to know, hey, what does this actually look like? I think it's a great opportunity. I would recommend that for anybody in any emergency communications position, period, not just Grand Prairie. But if you're looking at any other agency, if they give you an opportunity to do that, do it, because you get to see how the agency operates, but also one of the things that was like one of the most important things for me after having been in emergency communications, moving over here, was what is the culture? What is the vibe?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like how do they work together? What is the expectation there? How hard do they work? How fast do they work? Like how do they communicate? So that was really important for me to come over here and see it with my own eyes, because not like we're trying to sell it, but I can tell you one thing, but you actually being in there and experiencing it, you know, that's a whole other thing, and you have to make that choice for yourself. So
Yeah. Do y'all make a thing out of doing ride-outs with officers?
yeah.
Do you?
So in their training, at different points in their training too. So in the beginning, they'll do a ride out, and then PD, the channel, that is usually the last console that they get trained on. So they'll do a ride out on both, because by that point, the expectation is they've developed so much, you know, that you want a refresher on that ride out and a perspective. But it's important for them to see what are officers really expecting and wanting.
Right.
What is actually helpful to y'all when you respond, you're responding and you're driving 100 miles an hour. Like, what is it that you're wanting to hear? How important is it that we're checking on you and that we're, you know, keeping up with stuff? Because I think sometimes there can be a disconnect, and that's a great opportunity for officers to kind of have their part in molding.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought the time that we spent at dispatch too was super super important.
Yeah.
Because there's so many. Because when you're in a moment, that whatever is going on in front of you is super important, especially if it's one of those high stress situations. It's like, forget everything else. Like just give me what I need right now, and it's really easy to forget if you don't kind of get that cross experience of you know, this person sitting in a room waiting for you to tell them, and then you just hit them with this, hurry up, and it's like it doesn't work like that. It's not that simple. You know, they need more context. So yeah, that's cool. I never had I don't think I've ever seen a dispatcher on a shift. That's awesome.
Yeah, so they're doing more ride-outs, and then PD is also, with their academies, they'll have them come sit in there for a while, so they're able to see it. And you can kind of tell some people are more interested in it, some people are like, oh, okay, you know, like I'm doing it because I need to do it. But I do think it helps put the pieces together. Like, they recognize that there's more going on than just their one.
Yeah.
Like, when you're working a call, you're working that call.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have an awareness of what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
But unless we're emergency traffic, then they're working your call, and, you know, everything else going on. So
No way I could do that job. I couldn't even do it for 5 minutes. Yeah. Like,
I wouldn't make it. Well, you would make it past phones. But.
True. So I think when I come in there, if you can have somebody just run the computer, I just want to talk to the people on the phone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be funny.
the worst
Like,
possible.
no, we're not going out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to do what?
Yeah.
We've had that happen before. We're like, no, you can't tell them that. Like, they'll decide, on the other end of that if they're going to go out. But
That's
we're
funny.
not going to
Because
tell
we're
them, no,
used
we're
to
not
making
going.
that call.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So,
Well, we're hitting our time for sure. Do you have any advice for people who are looking into the job?
I would just kind of what we talked about, just research your agencies that you're looking at. Obviously, Grand Prairie is the best, so we're always going to be the best in my mind.
You heard it.
But
We say that kind of jokingly, like, oh, I know, but like people always, especially in your chair, wind up in a weird position where it's like, I don't know if anyone's going to believe me because like they're putting me on their podcast to talk about it. Obviously, I'm going to say that, but I was talking to a dear friend of mine from my old agency yesterday, and we were kind of talking about the differences in our careers and like, yeah, there's bumps, there's things that aren't perfect. There's people that piss me off every once in a while. There's decisions that get made that I don't always agree with, but man, I would not for a second do I doubt the decision I made.
Yeah.
right, like I don't regret it at all, and I don't really know how else to convey that. Everything you just said, like, is it perfect? No. Is one of the best things about Grand Prairie, though, is we acknowledge those things and we work toward perfecting those things. And so
That's the big difference for me here is the added, because I'm not going to keep just, in other places, not just where I came from, but in places in general, especially in government, you find that people are like, hey, I'm collecting a paycheck, think like we're getting by as it is, just leave it how it is. Like, don't touch anything. Whereas here, there's a value placed on being aggressive and being proactive,
Making it better.
towards, hey, how do we make
like the
this better?
expectation is high.
Right.
And-
You're doing something. You're doing something beyond just what you did last year.
Right, and that the expectation is like for you personally to produce, but also to grow. Like it's not for you. I mean, I think even people that might, if you don't ever want to promote, it's not even about promotion. It's just about learning, and developing your skills and perfecting your skills and your craft. And that is so supported and pushed that I don't know how other agencies work, but it doesn't ever make me want to leave, And so I would say that if you're looking at other agencies, Grand Prairie is an excellent agency, but you need to know too that coming on, like coming on and signing on, the expectation for you is just as high. So don't think that you're gonna come sign on and just be kind of able to chill and
you can't
sit it
skate
out.
by.
This ain't it. We are about putting it in and putting in the work. And one of the things too is just seeing how your work, like seeing that come to fruition. I'm sure you guys experience that too. Not many times does everything, or not all the time does everything turn out just perfect, right? Or turn out great. But when you do see things like that happen, it is like an experience, seeing, like for me, I got an opportunity I didn't even do it. It wasn't even my call. I didn't work the call, but it was a situation where I came, like I heard the call going on. I'm like, I'm going to pull that audio later. I want to see, how that turned out. But we had somebody, talking someone through CPR on a newborn.
Oh, wow.
A lot of times when people are doing CPR, it is not good. It's not ideal.
Right.
But later on, 3 months later, getting to see that baby, like
awesome.
living, like she's here.
Yeah.
She is here.
That's dope.
Because of the opportunity that he had and the ability and wherewithal that he had to be able to walk them through that. And then, of course, fire doing their thing. But just the whole team coming together and doing that, seeing that is like, that's wild, and I don't know how else to convey that to somebody who's outside of it other than that's something you're not going to get anywhere else. You're not going to get that. So,
Yeah, that can be extremely rewarding.
yeah. That's it, though.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully it wasn't
It wasn't too bad.
as stressful as you were afraid it was going to be.
No, you guys are good. Good. So,
We're doing it by the seat of our pants, so.
same. I'm just happy I wasn't cussing or.
Yeah, you didn't cuss at all.
No, it was good.
You did good.
All right, guys, we appreciate it.
Till next time.